Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Intentional Conscious Parenting Show. Today we have a special guest for you. We have the creative and spiritual author, Andrew Newman, who has created the Conscious Bedtime Stories. Welcome, Andrew.
Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you very much, Carol and Stacey. What a great pleasure to be here.
We're so excited to have you with us today.
I'm inspired by what you're doing, and I hope that our conversation today can touch and reach the parents out there who follow along and look for little tidbits of support.
Nice. Thank you. We're very proud of what we're doing, and we're happy to bring on many authors like you who are raising the vibration of the planet and connecting with the parents and the children.
So important. So important.
So do you want to start out by telling us how you started writing the Conscious Bedtime Stories?
Yeah, absolutely. I started writing as my own personal journaling practice. And my journaling, I found like flat facts were boring. So I started writing poetically. And then one day, sitting on a field in Scotland, of all places, I wrote a poem. And straight away I thought, oh, this poem needs some pictures. And I had a friend who was an illustrator, and I knew that she was the right fit. And that's where it all started. That was the very first book in 2010.
Wow, that's about when we started.
Right,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Took 4 years for the second book to arrive.
Wait,
I didn't know I was making books. I was enjoying my own creative process.
Yeah, it is a process.
It is a process.
There's a lot of work that goes into it.
Because we care so much. You obviously care so much. It's not just something you can just whip out. There's a lot that goes into it, and a lot of thought and feelings and absolute present moment and teachings, and it's pretty powerful.
It's fun though.
We feel that from your books, the same intention that you're putting in it as we did with ours.
Thank you. I find the writing process so interesting. Often, for example, The Boy Who Searched for Silence is a story. It's a book that wrote itself in about 3 minutes, but those 3 minutes came at the end of a 4-day silent retreat. And in a way, all of my stories come out of a community experience. And when I sit in the community field, I have a certain way that I listen to what's happening in the collective, and I call forward the right story that summarizes the human experience.
So a universal download.
The collective consciousness is what you were talking about?
Right. Sometimes and not always, right? Sometimes I get a glimpse and I've got to evolve it myself with my own writing and research. Other times, like that book, it's down in an instant, but that instant was 4 days of meditation.
Yeah, it was an instant. That's great. That's great. How important do you feel the last 20 minutes of a child's day is?
It's absolutely essential. I mean, my entire business is built around the fact that is a precious time, and my motivations behind that are that it's a time of transition. And now we don't talk that much about transition times, and there are many of them during our day. Desmond Tutu was one of my inspirations in this. He wrote in his book Made for Goodness about the way that his family used to pray the transitions. And so it didn't matter if he was leaving the house or going on a long drive, he acknowledged them. And I started to pay attention to the last 20 minutes of the day and thought, what's happening here? We're going to sleep. We know what it's like as adults if we go to sleep on an argument. That sleep, for me, I notice is certainly more restless, and I don't wake up the next morning going, ooh, let's go into the day, because my psyche is somehow involved. The whole night it's involved. It's active and it's engaged. And for our little ones, when you're 4 years old, one day is a huge percentage of your life. And for sure, something's happened in that day that has been confrontational to who you are and your belief in your own safety and belonging. And so children are challenged with safety and belonging. They're really safe to be themselves, are they, or do they need to change? And in the last 20 minutes of the day, parents can help them integrate the day simply by beautiful connection together.
Wow, that was beautifully said.
Very beautiful said.
Nice.
We actually, that was a big practice with our children while we were raising. She has 2 girls and I have 2 boys, and we both were very adamant at reading nightly to our children when we put them to bed.
Right. There's so much more going on than story time. It's not just the story. It's the parenting posture changes. You're no longer, hey, brush your teeth, put your pajamas on, eat your food in that kind of mode, but you then come alongside them and you get to be an ally with them as you enter into the territory of this story. And that togetherness opens up the opportunity for a lot of sharing.
A lot of sharing. You're on their level, and
and things pop out of their mouths that you had no clue of that was it's great, from something that might be worrying them or just something in the imagination of the book that we're reading about, that you can kind of get a glimpse of where they're coming from and their vibration and energy and what's happening at that moment. It's pretty powerful.
Right, and it's the moment when you say it pops out. It from everything I hear from parents, it can be quite surprising, and this is one of my invitations to parents is to be prepared for the unexpected.
Yes,
absolutely. And to know that if you've been looking for connection all day and it hasn't quite come the way you expected it, it's like, here it is. Life is unexpected. It's surprising. There's an opportunity to follow the thread. And if you've arrived to story time without mandating it to be 10 minutes and lights out, or with a certain amount of fluidity, then you can really meet your child as that unexpected worry gets brought forward by them.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for that.
That's great.
So we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but you've infused a lot of wisdom and mindfulness and conscious parenting techniques and tools into your stories. Where do you find the inspiration for your stories, besides the universal download? Do you have any children?
I don't have children, no. But my last 15 years has been a period of training myself as a healer, and then working as a healer in a therapy environment, amongst many other roles. And I found that during that, every person who came into my therapy practice was dealing with something that started when they were less than 6 years old.
Yep.
And I had a very strong influence through Barbara Brennan's healing school around developmental psychology. Her framework is an evolution of Reich's work from many.
I'm familiar with her work. It's great.
Fabulous.
Yes.
And an incredible program for helping people develop. And actually, I credit that school training for my creativity. At 31, when I went into the program, I didn't identify as being creative. But I learned through that school to trust my own writing process and my own creativity. And okay, wow, I've got 12 bedtime stories now that I deeply resonate with each of the messages. But to come back to your question of where they come from, you've heard about the one in the silence meditation. I was sitting in the Findhorn Foundation in the north of Scotland, which is another great sort of spiritual eco-village community.
I'm so jealous.
Am I teasing you? Have you been? Do you need to go?
We need to go.
Yeah, I suggest you do. It's a good place for writing stories, apparently. The fish who nearly drowned in his search for water, that was one that came out in that foundation. And literally 30 seconds later, on the same piece of paper, the tree of goodness, which is all about a really inherent state of goodness. What makes a tree good? Actually, nothing it does. It's good just because it's of its own existence.
I love that.
Wow.
That's awesome.
These are so great. Were you raised by intentional conscious parents?
Not at all. Is there anybody who can answer that? Yes.
Our children can. Now I can't, and Carol can't, but our children, from the time they were in my womb, were raised intentional conscious, with headphones on them, with reading to them. My husband would play his guitar and sing to them. We would teach them and tell them to use their brain and be smart and feelings and open. So from birth, they have and even before in the womb, they have been raised that way.
But I think that's more so because of the evolutionary consciousness of where we are as a whole collectively and where we're headed. And so it makes more sense that we were able to do it versus our parents.
Right.
You know, this is new territory.
It is new territory, and the USA is pioneering in this. Yes. And I can say that my upbringing was apartheid South Africa, with a dad who didn't have a social emotional language and a mother who was Scottish with a certain amount of reserve. And so no, it wasn't my upbringing at all. But I've been able to see, as I've lived in different countries, that the US has this emerging relationship with psychology. That whilst the East was doing spirituality, the West was doing psychology. And I could, I kind of joke in Boulder where I live and say, everybody here, they've had a psychotherapist for 30 years already. And so there's a certain language that starts to get brought out from that. And what I see with conscious parenting is that it's a meeting point of psychology, spirituality, and education.
Nice way to describe it.
Yeah, and that as these disciplines they're no longer divided on the global level. They're held so much closer that they're influencing each other, and we're starting to look into how can this beautiful being who's right here be anything other than wise and perfect right from the start. Yes, they need some help, but they're also here to help us as adults to awaken to who we are.
I believe in to teach us to learn and to learn us to teach. They have came here to teach us just as much as we have came, or more to teach them. Absolutely. Right. I've learned a lot, and my kids now are 34 and 30, and as of this morning, I just learned something. I mean, they still teach, always. Absolutely. Did you go to a public school or private schools when you were?
Well, the South African education, I'm not clear that it's the same language, but it was a private school that would have been funded by my parents. That meant that it was one of the multiracial schools in the country, in a time where schools would have been predominantly divided by race. Okay. I was very fortunate. I did have exceptional education, and that education of the time was focused around knowledge and skills development, and had absolutely no ground for relational language. It was an all-boys school, and the certain amount of social dysfunction that comes from being a teenage boy amongst other teenage boys trying to work out how the world works.
Absolutely.
Would you, if someone asked you, what would you like to see in the school systems, whether it was in there or in the States, is that something you'd be able to answer in this present day and age for being present-minded and intentional, conscious of teaching? And like you said, it lacked in the schools, even what I grew up with, it lacked teaching emotional values and just being in the present moment. I mean, you were allowed to hit other kids' children, and even went to stores if they didn't mind, for goodness sakes. It's like totally unacceptable behavior in this day and age, but in the schools, it was pretty rampant too.
Right.
Children, even though they were
it really was. And it's changed so much. And I think that the bearing and the direction for schools is already showing itself here in the US. The Mindfulness and Education Network is incredible. In one sentence, I would say I'm interested in person-centeredness, in how we are educated, and not what we want to be when we grow up, which was kind of the framework, but how we want to be when we grow up.
Absolutely. Very well put.
I love that. Can you tell our audience how they can go about subscribing to your monthly subscription to get your books?
Thank you. Yes, the subscription is best viewed on a website, consciousstories.com. And we offer really the easiest way to get in is you can buy one book, or you can subscribe to a whole year's worth of stories to come in. Each of the stories having that breathing practice that we call the snuggle breathing. just to start story time. And quiet story. This is for mum, because this idea of our little ones being able to come present when the grown up in the room hasn't centered themselves is never going to work.
Exactly.
So why not just do it together? It's also for I hear from so many mums that they used to have a meditation practice before they had kids, and it's kind of fallen off, and there's hardly a moment in their day to do that. So why not make the last 20 minutes of your day your spiritual practice? The chances are that between the ages of 0 and 8, you're going to be involved every night in helping your little one go to sleep. So practice time is already set for you. You've got the structure to do it, and then the books also having that activity page at the end to help a little bit of reflection once the kids get older and you want to have some question time and try and extract those or prepare the space for those pop-up surprises we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, the stickers that you have on some of them, the little tidbits. You've got the daily hug meter. I mean, there's so many different things in your book that are just fabulous to carry on. And little kids remember this, and they'll run to those books and go, let's do our daily hug meter, or can I have a sticker tonight? Or, I mean, each one is so different, and they will utilize them. That was brilliant work.
Thank you very much. I focused on making sure that the books will live, or the characters in the books will live outside of story time. And that's everyone thinks stickers are just a little something for fun. Well, actually, they're serving a purpose. We know that we're bombarded with marketing messaging from the bigger companies that can afford it. And for the little guy like myself, I'm just going, well, stickers simple. If it's on a water bottle or a lunchbox, it's gonna keep the essence of the story alive in the home in another way. Through our website, we're growing the coloring in book collection as well, so that can match the stories. The books are available on Amazon, but we can't follow up as well as a community, and we really want to build a community of parents who are interested in parenting in this particular way, in perhaps coming to an online reading, having deeper discussions about what's the impact of this particular theme in your family.
We have a Facebook group called Intentional Conscious Parenting, and we would love if you would like to join us. You're more than welcome to come in and share with the parents and all your techniques and tips. We'd be honored.
Beautiful. Let's do story time.
All right. That'd be awesome.
Let's do story time.
So let's see. So we're probably almost out of time. So is there anything else you wanted to ask? Or
well, my other question was, do you have something else coming up on the horizon, or is your series of all these books taking up all your time at this moment and in the future, the near future?
At the moment, the focus is very much with a series of books. There's a lot that I can develop and offer out within the framework of the stories and the story club. I'm always exhibiting at Dr. Shafali has an annual conference in LA, so that one's a big September event that we're part of. There's some fantastic interest coming. I'm wondering how to reach out to people like Goldie Hawn, who has the Hawn Foundation and does
into hers too. Yes,
incredible work there. How do we get these books into the hands of someone like Eckhart Tolle, who might say, you know what, he'll just put a name to it, and the impact of what he does for families, getting awareness around this. I think that this is community. I think it's grassroots. I think it's word of mouth in a certain way. We are pioneering something different here that hasn't been done. For the first time, we can have retail outlets, and we're very excited to be working with the Mind, Body, Spirit retail community as our starting point, but not our only point on that. So there is so much happening inside the club, and there are new stories. And I will say that there are 4 stories being illustrated this year, and I don't want to whisper too much about them, but they're fabulous.
All of us look forward to it. Even the people that haven't got it yet, I know we're going to be looking forward to it.
We want to thank you so much for your time today and for sharing your story with us. And we want to let anybody who's watching, thank you for supporting the Inner Light of the Children. And if you'd like to learn more about intentional conscious parenting and any upcoming interviews or reviews or more subject matter, please go to our website at intentionalconsciousparenting.com and visit Andrew at consciousstories.com.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. What a great pleasure.
Namaste.